appropriately calls the abiding events, a definition which conjures something of the transtemporal quality of eternal and enduring, but also the verbal significance of residing in a place. The abiding events constitute what we would call law, an abiding law, in the sense of a permanent law, something that any subsequent event can never change. The abiding events, the jukurva, stand alone and obscured by the everyday life events, the so-called rhythmic events, the nurwiri. We could imagine two different parallel worlds, the sacred world of myth and the profane world of everyday life, that come together and come into contact through the rituals during which the deeds of the totemic ancestors are reenacted and made present. Under this light, the rite becomes a process of rebirth and regeneration of man and earth, a practice that celebrates life as something sacred. Songs and stories and myths continue to be created all the time, even when the whites arrive in Australia. They are still produced as the events of everyday life keep developing around an ever-changing jukurva. It seems as if the new strange occurrences had to be metabolized by the Aborigines, integrated in the narration of the world in order to be understood. There are paintings of Macassan boats in a number of shelters along the northern and eastern coasts of the Gulf of Carpentaria. The Macassans were trip hunters coming from Sulawesi. They used to visit the coasts of northern Australia in the 18th and 19th century, even the beginning of the 20th century, to collect and process trepang, a term used to identify several species of Holothurian, a marine invertebrate known as a sea cucumber or pêche de mer, also common in the Mediterranean, prized for its culinary and medicinal value in the Chinese markets. Sometimes the boats are painted according to the same X-ray technique used by the Aborigines in their renderings of animals and people, in which the internal organs are depicted. The trepang was often worked on board of the ships, so many illustrations show the internal workings of these ships. The Macassan used to employ local Yanyuwa Aborigines to collect the trepang. The custom was recorded in several songs. The songs were sung in long sessions, sometimes lasting all night, as in the trepang gatherers that you see here with the Aboriginal text and the English translation, and as a translator, I also try to provide an Italian translation. The trepang gatherers is only one of a dozen similar songs collected by Martin Dewar and Robert Dixon in their book Little Eva at Midnight Creek, a title that directs us to another and much longer song, actually divided into various parts as the events it narrates developed. On December 1942, during the Second World War, a United States Air Force plane, a consolidated B-24 Liberator named Little Eva, returning from a bombing raid over New Guinea, hit a tropical storm, which disabled the radio. The plane lost its way, ran out of fuel, and the crew bailed out before the Liberator crashed near Moonlight Creek, Dul Java, on the Gulf of Carpentaria. Several Yanyuwa and Garawa people from the nearby cattle stations were enlisted by the Australian Army and sent in the air to aid in the search for the missing aircrew. The remains of the plane are still there. Later, a song was created, Aeroplane dance, during which dancers come out of a large bow shade constructed in the shape of the crashed plane. The dancers also wear objects reminding the buses of a plane because they represent the biplanes that were used in the search and were cited by the search parties. In 1994, a film was made, Aeroplane Dance, directed by Trevor Graham, who had promised a copy of the film for this session but never arrived. The film dramatizes the American struggle to survive in an unfamiliar land they considered hostile and desolate. On the contrary, Aboriginal land of plenty, a place people not just by the living, but also by the spirits of their ancestors. So two completely different backgrounds and ways of life blend together, producing a new traditional legend, the Aboriginal Aeroplane dance, an aeroplane song, and an international and Western art event, a film which seems to juxtapose American and Ghanaian takes of the war, but also different views of life and culture using drama, song, and dance. The original text is accompanied by a short commentary in English, probably in order to provide an integration for those parts of the story which were usually conveyed by the rhythm, the music, and the dance. And so I also try to provide, in this case, being a translator, an Italian translation. The Aboriginal themes, the traditional themes, or the Aboriginal songlines can be easily traced also in modern Aboriginal music. The original singer, Geoffrey Gurrumbu, Yunupingu, commonly known simply as Gurrumbu, writes and performs songs about identity, the spirits of the land, and the ancestral being he is related to. He sings in his native Gumachi language, in his high tenor voice, but he uses, besides native instruments like the didgeridoo, also Western instruments like drums, keyboards, and in particular guitar. And the songs are arranged in a way that they recall Western melodic songs or some New Age music. Gurrumbu is blind, and he's self-taught to play the guitar, but since he's left-handed, he learned to play the guitar while holding it upside down, which means that he uses a right-hand strung guitar held to the left, with the thin E position at the top rather than at the bottom. And this seems to me a metaphor, a traditional music of Down Under being played upside down. Not only in the sense that the strings with guitar are reverted, but also in the sense that the songs narrating ancestral myths in the Gumachi language are played and sung using a Western musical style blended with typical Aboriginal elements, thus completely upsetting both Western and Australian musical patterns and creating a genre capable of transcending cultural boundaries. The ancestor being of the Gumachi people is Jilawur, the orange-footed scrub fowl, a bird of the galliform order, native of Southeast Asia, then probably flown into Australia. In some of Gurrumbu's songs, like We Are Told or Jilawur, the birds find to return to the jungles of their native Macassan site, which is maybe a reflection of ancient stories about shipwrecked sailors on the coast of northern Australia, cut away from their native land. Today, the blending of all rhythms and new themes seems to be also an important part of the production of Salento's Pizzica, an ancestral and ritual dance connected with tarantism, a phenomenon widely studied, among others, by the eminent Italian anthropologist Ernesto De Martino in his milestone study La Terra del Rimorso, the land of remorse. The phenomenon seems to descend from the Orphic Dionysian rites that were commonly celebrated all over southern Italy in the area of Magna Graecia, ages before Christ. Such rites and practices hint at the spiritual liberation of man and the intrinsic immortality of the soul. Scientifically, tarantism is generally considered a form of possession, known to scientists as MPI, mass psychogenetic illness, and it is connected with the popular belief that the bite of a tarantula or taranta may plunge the person into a syndrome characterized by a state of anguish, feeling of weariness, feebleness, swelling of the abdomen, thirst, instability of mood. The disease, according to the tradition, could only be cured by music, so a group of musicians playing guitars, mandolins, flutes, tambourines, especially, and sometimes a violin, were summoned, and the music produced by the musicians standing in a ronda, sort of magic circle, round a sick person, starting in a melancholic and repetitive rhythm, but evolving to become sweeter and obsessive. Still later, the tarantata, or the tarantados, is meant to be effective to perform a ritual healing dance, the taranta. Both tarantism and Aboriginal dances seem to provide, among other things, a mythical ritual space for recovery and reintegration, which are marked preference in particular moments of life in the individual, like the crisis of puberty and the passage from adolescence to adult life. As it can be seen in the lyrics of some Salentino music songs, like Santo Paulo, St. Paul,